Hello, I'm Cora Taylor, and this is a read aloud moment for the Canadian Children's Book Centre's World Read Aloud Day. And I'm going to read to you from my new book, Finding Melissa. Now, first I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's about a young girl who's kidnapped when she's 2 years old. And part of my fascination with the idea of doing this book was because I've always wondered what it would be like to find out you're not the person you think you are. I've dealt with identity before in my fourth book, Summer of the Mad Monk, but this time I go into a little bit more. But what happens when there's a kidnapping? What are the results? And that's what fascinated me. It's not only the victim, the person who's kidnapped, that is the victim in a case like that, but her family as well. And so in my story, I go into what happens to her sister as well as what happens to Melissa. So I'm going to start just by reading what happens. It shows in the very beginning where we have some newspaper clippings. On Sunday, 2.5-year-old Melissa Warren disappeared while her parents, Arthur and Joanne Warren, were tenting at the North Thompson River campground, north of Blue River, British Columbia. Search parties failed to locate any trace of the little girl in the dense bush around the campground. Proximity to the river raised the possibility that she had been swept away by the rushing water, still high from spring runoff and flooding. And then there's another clipping. A few days later, search parties continue to comb the forest around the North Thompson River campground, where 2-year-old Melissa Warren disappeared on Sunday, but no trace of the Vancouver girl has been found. Attempts to drag the North Thompson River failed to recover a body. The family dog, a border collie terrier cross, had left the tent as well. It was found dead under some nearby brush with several wounds, including slashes to its throat. Sightings of a sow grizzly in the area caused speculation that the child had been carried off by a bear. And a final newspaper clipping, RCMP have called off the search for the Vancouver 2-year-old who disappeared. Now we go to her sister. It's 12 years later, and we're going to find out a bit of what's happened. Private Journal of Clarice Warren. So the new guidance counselor at school thinks the reason I get in trouble so much is guilt. Ms. Madison, fresh out of some stupid psych course, found out about my missing sister's story and dredged the whole thing up again. I'm supposed to talk it out. Find out why I don't get along at school. I didn't tell her. I get along way better there than I do at home, living with a mother who hates the sight of me. So here I am, not talking it out. No way I'm going to do that, and I told her so. I'm supposed to write it out, do the journal thing, and write about it. Madison says I don't have to show it to anyone, so I could just forget it and say I did it. But what the hell, I might as well. It'll be a good way to vent. Nobody else to talk to. Or I could just rant on and on about my mother. How many years did I try to please her? Too many. Then in high school, I figured out that getting into trouble gets you noticed, and it's way easier than trying to get straight A report cards. But my mother never seemed to care. Just looked at me with that look, as if I was only fulfilling something she'd known all along. I was not the good daughter. The good daughter was gone. Being the perfect little girl for Mummy didn't work. There was always the tragic, lost little girl, darling Melissa. Not gone, lost. Being lost meant that she could be found, technically. And my mother has never given up, never stopped believing that somewhere, someday Melissa will show up. She gets this artist from Childfind to do portraits of Melissa as she would be each year. There is a line of them hanging on her bedroom wall, except the current one. It's in a fancy frame in the living room. Melissa at 14. The artist has made her hair long. She looks a bit like Hilary Duff. Actually, she looks a lot like Hilary Duff, as if that fat little rugrat would have turned out looking that good. I think the artist realizes he's on to a good thing. My mother pays him big bucks to turn the regular sketches into oil paintings suitable for framing and mooning over. There are no portraits of me in the house, just the usual school photos that get done every year, tucked in Dollarama frames in the bedroom. Last fall, excuse me, I didn't bother to pick mine up and bring it home. She never noticed. Well, now we're going to read, but I should mention one more paragraph. But we've got this fancy portrait in the living room. Portrait of a dead kid, I call it. So, we're going to read a little bit from the next chapter, which is set somewhere else from another point of view, and I'm sure you'll figure out who it is, even if the character doesn't know who she is. There's a recurring dream I've had ever since I can remember. I'm in a beautiful world of green with flickering lights shining through. Not alone. There is something soft to cuddle with. Maybe it's a teddy bear. Strange. The dream, except for the color and flashes of light, is the strongest by the smell and feel of it. A prickly feeling as I lie holding the softness. There is green close above. It has a sharp, keen smell. We are hiding there, and the green keeps us safe. Then everything changes. The softness is gone, snatched away. And the sharp, clean smell of green is gone too. Something is coming at me. I try to get away, but there's no place to go. And I'm scared, and I can't scream because I can't breathe. A dirty, slippery feeling yellow cloth is over my face. There's a sick, sweet smell, and then the dream is over. I have other dreams now and then, but they're just fragments. Now that I am older, I hardly ever have those dreams, but I do have nightmares. These are real, and they belong to the time before I came to live with Aunt Rosie, when I was very little. I try not to think about them. I woke up screaming again last night, the first time I'd done it for months, maybe years. When it happened before, I'd lie in my bed, feet tangled in the covers, and wait for Aunt Rosie to come. She always comes, always holds me the way she did when I was little. And she always says the same thing, "There, there, my pet," over and over. Sometimes when I finally stop shaking and look up at her, there are tears in her eyes. So that's the excerpt from Finding Melissa. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy reading the book.